And welcome back to Truth Hurts, where we expose corrupt politicians and lying corporate media. I'm Jake Duesenberg, your host. We are broadcasting live from Roseville, Minnesota, in the belly of the beast. Joining me, as usual, MAGA Jesse, who came straight from the Minnesota Supreme Court, where they're trying to remove Donald Trump from the ballot in this state. How you doing there, MAGA Jesse?
Yeah, I'm doing good, but I mean, it's a scary day for Minnesota, and we live in a place where it's a banana republic, where they're trying to wipe off their competition from the ballot. It shows that the Democrats are afraid of Trump. They know that Donald Trump can win. We can win Minnesota. I believe in it, and yeah, nice to see the Patriots. Also, we had other Patriots out there with me too. So Dale and several others. Yeah, nice. Carla Nelson, good to see all you guys. And the Patriots need to rise up to these kinds of things.
Well, we're going to have a perspective on that you won't hear from anywhere else. We'll get into the lawyers in the case. We did an article at actionforliberty.com, so go check that out. Joining me for the second time ever, just showing this is proof that anyone will be led on this show, Brad Ganser. How you doing, Brad?
I'm doing great. You know, I'm glad to be here. I was traveling for a few days. I think I sent you some of the photos, and so I've been disengaged, and I want to get back here and hear what's going on.
That's what happened. When you're absent from the comment section, we just invite you right on the show, apparently.
Yeah. Brad, could I get you to grab your mic closer to you?
I know. I didn't have the heart to tell him that he's already screwed up.
Oh, I've got the heart.
Mic's off. There you go. Well, we don't really need to hear what Brad has to say. Running the dials as normal, as usual, is Mr. Deep State himself, Dawson. How you doing there, Dawson?
Yep, it's me. I am omnipresent for just a moment. I gotta swap out.
Oh, you're not? Okay, so we don't have video of Dawson. Okay.
Okay, sorry. I was filming your Halloween thing and didn't get the batteries on the charger after.
He did come out there, and it was pretty good. And I haven't seen any video yet, but
honestly, I don't think any of it came out.
Oh, are you serious?
It was so dark. We gotta get night vision stuff to do next year.
Well, you know what? There's scary things going on in this world. We'll get into that. So a unique perspective of Trump. We're going to try to talk about, let's see here, Biden's visit to Minnesota, what statement he made, and the trans rabbi that heckled him. This shows that the left also eats his own. Because, you know, we're going to have a good guest on the show today, and people are always like, oh, the right always goes after each other. They're always infighting. It's like the left is infighting way more right now, and we'll show you more proof of that. But we got a heckler who made it into Biden's $1,000 minimum starting spot fundraising event when he came to Minnesota. He's for the grassroots, by the way. Joe Rogan, what he said with Elon Musk and what he said with Tim Kennedy in his latest two podcasts. We also have the non-woke Texas Rangers win the World Series, and Oregon reduces its standards for graduation. Some really interesting stories. But first, joining us live from California is David Gigilio. Gigilio is the guy challenging Kevin McCarthy for Speaker of the House. You know, I've been told he's the Kevin McCarthy's a good guy. You know, he's one of us. David, why on earth would you challenge Kevin McCarthy, the former Speaker of the House?
Well, it's pronounced Gigilio. I'm not going to hold it against you.
Wait, how do you say it? Gigilio?
Gigilio. Trust me. It's
we were debating how to pronounce it. I appreciate it. So is the second G silent?
Yeah, I was a teacher and a college baseball player. So you can imagine the fun the kids and my teammates had with that last name.
We had it before on Tuesday's show. So there you go.
Nothing phases me anymore. But yeah, I mean, you hit on something there. They're trying to, in Minnesota, they're trying to take President Trump off the ballot, and Mr. Kevin McCarthy, who has paraded around, owes his entire career to Donald Trump. What's he doing right now? Well, he was just in Europe with Frank Luntz, and Frank Luntz is cracking jokes about Donald Trump, and Kevin's sitting there laughing about it. So Kevin McCarthy is not one of the good guys. Kevin McCarthy is everything that's wrong with politics. He is the figurehead for the Uniparty. And it's time for us to show him, you know, that MAGA owns this party. This is Donald Trump's party. This is not his party. This is not the RNC's party. MAGA's coming for him. We took his gavel. Now we're going to take his seat.
Do you see? I push back on what you just said there. Donald Trump is certainly the leader of this America First. I see it's on your sign there. But it's not Donald Trump's party. It's your party. It's the grassroots party. And in many regards, Trump, and I love the statement he makes, I'm just standing in the way. The people they're coming after are you. So it seems like, and I like how you have that on your backdrop, is it's America First. And it seems like that's a controversial position to have these days.
You know, That's a great point. My name, I've been telling people since I got into this, this is a big fight. My name is the one going on the ballot, but I just view myself as somebody who's standing up to put the name on the ballot, but this is our fight. This is our chance to show the people in Washington that, we're tired of being ignored. We've had enough. And yeah, America First gets a lot of grief, but what's so controversial about wanting to put American citizens first, wanting to pass policies that make life better for the average American? That should be every politician's goal in Washington. And the fact that they think it's an extremist position just goes to show you that Washington's broken.
I'm going to show this clip later on the show, and it's Joe Rogan, kind of like an aha moment. Joe Rogan's talking to Tim Kennedy, the former UFC fighter, special forces guy. Tim Kennedy is like literally Mr. America. He's a G.I. Joe. He's a living, walking G.I. Joe. It's hilarious. And he's talking about the crisis on the border and how the coyotes are trafficking the people and at the same time upstream trafficking fentanyl across the border. And they're pushing these kids off, so they create this humanitarian crisis so that the soldiers and the border patrol have to go save these kids, like literally babies being pushed into the river so they could get their fentanyl across. And Joe Rogan, just in an aha moment, goes, it's almost as if this is all planned. And it's like, and I'm going to get into this later, yeah, this stuff is planned. It's a destruction of America. And so it's really interesting that this America First term, which is now getting basically looped into the MAGA extremists, which is the biggest threat to America, according to Joe Biden and the far left, is the most common sense thing, which I think most people want in America. Am I wrong on that, David Gigilio?
Yeah, the irony with all of that is it is the most common sense platform, and MAGA, which America First, is actually far more mainstream than I would say traditional conservatism is. There are many issues that MAGA Republicans and even progressives can work together on. We're talking about banning politicians from trading stocks, becoming lobbyists after they leave office. We're talking about term limits. We're talking about bringing blue-collar, working-class jobs back to this country, bringing manufacturing back to this country, improving our infrastructure. If that's extremism, then I don't know what extremism is, because there's nothing extreme about any of that stuff. The Democrats have labeled MAGA as extreme because it represents the greatest threat they've ever seen to their dominance, because it appeals to groups that they believe they own, groups that have voted for them forever, that they have taken for granted, that they have done nothing for. So MAGA is such a threat to them that they want to demonize it and make people think it is this extreme movement, when in fact, if you look at those policies, it's far more appealing than anything the Republican Party's ever offered.
All right, tell me the top 3 reasons you believe Kevin McCarthy needs to be primaried.
Well, Kevin McCarthy has been there forever. He's done nothing. I mean, he did nothing. He kept none of his promises. And I believe the biggest threat we have facing this country right now is the growing weaponization of our government. And Kevin McCarthy and the rest of the top Republican leaders do not take this thing seriously. To think that this is going to end with Trump is complete foolishness. We have to start understanding who our opponent is and what their goals are. The Democrats want full and complete power. And Trump is just their biggest target. When they get rid of Trump, who is going to stand up against them after they do something like that? So that is one reason. Secure the border. Republicans have done nothing to secure the border. If you remember, Donald Trump carried the Republicans into a total control of the government when he won in 2016. They had the House and the Senate, and they stopped him from building his wall. We need doers, not people that just talk. And Kevin McCarthy is all talk. He's been all talk his entire career. He's delivered on nothing. The only thing Kevin McCarthy cares about is power, and he sold his soul to get that gavel, said it did anything, and delivered on nothing.
Yeah, so if you get elected, what's the change that people from your district are going to find out? Like, obviously you're not already bought and paid for by the lobbyists, otherwise you wouldn't be running. But tell us the change that you're going to bring forward.
Well, the first thing is water is a big issue. This is, I'm in the Central Valley, Bakersfield, Central Valley of California. 70% of our fruits and vegetables are grown here. Not having the water for our farmers to be able to produce foods is a national security issue. We've been trying to deal with this issue for a long time. Kevin McCarthy has been talking about solving this issue for a long time. Republicans, Kevin finally had his biggest Republican delegation from California in decades, and they didn't even make solving this water crisis one of their top issues. So when I get to Washington, I'm the only one still that has put forward a legitimate plan to solve this national issue. And I'm going to take the issue nationally, and I'm going to kick and scream to get it done, because that's what the people of this district deserve. Our nation is depending on solving this crisis.
Is that the temperament of the area? We're talking basically like south and east of Fresno, so kind of, I mean,
Yeah.
we're Minnesotans. What do we know about California?
Yeah, so
other than the fact our
Fresno-
governor loves it and wants us to be more like it. But go ahead.
Yeah, Fresno, Bakersfield, Tulare County, Kern County, that's the heart of everything that happens in America in terms of agriculture.
Well,
And
we
quite
disagree
frankly,
with that, but we'll let you say that around. That's fine. But
Well, you
is
guys
it?
taking a lot up in there because they've made the dairy. I mean, California used to be one of the top dairy producers, but the radical left has made it nearly impossible for dairies to exist out there. So we've lost it all. All
Yeah.
those California milk ads. That's why you don't see it anymore. They've moved to Wisconsin. They've moved to Minnesota because you cannot do business here.
Well, funny story. I grew up in Wisconsin, and we were the #1 dairy state. It was on our damn license plate. And sometime when I was like in middle school or something like that, California took over that moniker and became the top dairy state. And it was almost as bad as the Packers losing the Super Bowl. That's how awful that was to us. So the temperament of people in this area, in this district, is 20th congressional district. Is it that Kevin McCarthy doesn't care or doesn't pay attention there because he's out there hobnobbing with the Frank Luntzes, the special interests, the lobbyists of the world?
Well, listen, we've had a great amount of feedback from the people that actually cast the ballots. You know, they call Kevin a local hero. Kevin's a local hero by the people that have the money and the establishment and the elites. But the people who cast the ballots, they do feel left behind. I ran previously in the 13th congressional district, and one theme I get from people in the Central Valley is they feel forgotten. They have lost faith in their government. They've lost faith in their elected leaders, but they also feel a sense of hopelessness, like, but nobody else is coming and stepping up to stop us. How can we stop this? And that's why I think it's so important that I owe it to the people to stand up and fight, because I wasn't born here. I moved out here about 6 years ago with my wife, and I love this part of California. This would be one of the greatest places in the nation to live if it wasn't getting killed by the radical left's policies. And Republicans, for the most part, have kind of just sat back. They talk a big game, but they don't do anything. And I have no interest in that.
Yeah.
You can tell I like to talk. I got a big mouth, so I'm going to Washington not to make friends, not to kiss the party leader's butt. I'm going to deliver results.
You know, I'm looking at the comment section. We don't have the lovely Bridget here today. Read your comments. But Nabkinator goes, what, Jake, a Packer fan? So disappointing. Just so you know, I said I grew up in Wisconsin. I'm not a Packer fan, so just want to clarify that. And now
I'm a Browns fan. So what are they, when they hear about that, they're going to...
How do you become a Browns fan when you live in Bakersfield, California, or from Bakersfield area?
Well, I was originally from Connecticut but my uncle grew up a big Browns fan, and I just kind of picked it up, and it's been a lifetime of turmoil and heartbreak. You know, I'm kind of dismayed with them right now because I'm also a huge Baker Mayfield fan, so I don't like how that ended. But
yeah.
You know, David, I got a big question for you. So I remember, one of the biggest issues going on right now within our country is continuing resolutions and omnibus bills. That is a big topic where Kevin McCarthy let us down. He promised he was going to do single subject bills. What is your opinion on that? Do you believe that the budget bills need to be single subject and not an omnibus bill that are thousands of pages stuffing everything together?
Absolutely. That is one of the biggest problems. That's how politicians pass all their pet projects. They attach it to these must-pass bills. This has been going on for decades. Kevin McCarthy's time as Speaker, record short time, by the way, he's going to be remembered for two things. His two key pieces of legislation were passed by more Democrats than Republicans. That's why he's not Speaker anymore, because he didn't do the things he promised. And if we're ever going to stop the pork, the wasteful spending, single subject bills need to happen. We cannot keep attaching these wasted policies to things like the NDAA and the omnibus bill and the debt ceiling bill. It's just it's not sustainable. So I am for single subject bills, and we need to keep it going.
What's your thoughts on this Israel? What do we call this? The Israel-Hamas war? Is that the fair way to state it? Has the media come up with the actual name of this thing? Whatever we're dealing with Israel, I mean, you got. Go ahead.
The precursor to World War III.
Well, I
Is
mean,
that what
we
we're
look
calling
at this and we go, we
Yeah.
don't. It's not like there's a whistle blown or a gunshot in the air, and we say, "Oh, look, World War III started." We probably already are in it. Maybe it was already in Ukraine. Whatever it is, and we could segment a lot of stuff. I think we'll probably follow up with Ukraine. But tell us your thoughts on this whole situation. What America's role is here.
I am of the opinion I support Israel. I support their right to defend themselves, but I also believe that the United States has to take care of itself first. And I think that's what America First is about. Israel already gets $4.1 billion per year in U.S. aid. We give them our weapons, we give them our military equipment, we share intelligence with them. I believe that Israel can do whatever it wants to fight back against these terrorists, but we have to be careful not to get involved in this conflict more, because the second we get more involved, it is going to escalate. And quite frankly, we're funding both sides of this conflict. We are funding both sides of this conflict, creating the power keg. Nothing good has come from the United States playing the world's police. I would like for someone to one day show me any empirical evidence that shows that foreign aid has done anything by the United States, has done anything to decrease global tensions and to keep the peace, because I think the evidence is quite the opposite.
Well, it's making us poor, that's for sure. So what do you think is the biggest problem facing America?
Well, like I said, I think the weaponization of the government is the biggest problem. And I think the Republican Party needs to start taking this thing seriously. Conservatives are being attacked. Look at what's happening with January 6th prisoners. I mean, Kevin McCarthy promised to release that footage, didn't do it. Another thing he reneged on. And people are saying, we've had conservative doctors, people speaking outside abortion clinics getting raided by the FBI. I mean, this kind of stuff is serious stuff. The left is playing for keeps. They feel more emboldened than ever before. What happened in 2020 has them on the offensive, and Republicans have to wake up to the reality of their opponent, because we are the ones that American people are counting on to save this country and to preserve the republic. And quite frankly, too many of the Republicans don't have the stomach to do what's necessary.
You got something, Brad?
Yeah, I'm impressed because it's like we found a real life unicorn, a Republican in California. We're the mini Apple. We're now we're mini Angeles, and that's the way our state is going. And I'm more interested in
talking to that mic there, buddy. I'm sorry, David. This is not a professional. When you just hate on Jake all the time in the comments section.
All right. I did the same thing in a radio interview yesterday, so I can. Yeah,
I'm interested in finding. Inflation is crushing people here in Minnesota. I'm just wondering. We always talk about how much worse California is. You're a business owner, right? How is this affecting you, and how is this affecting regular people?
Oh, it's brutal. Let me tell you. So I do, for those that don't know, I have a retail store now. I do sports cards, collectibles, sell things like Pokemon, that kind of stuff.
Oh,
and
nice.
It is noticeable. I mean, the foot traffic has really deteriorated. People are feeling the pinch. Governor Newsom just signed a bill raising fast food workers' wages, minimum wage to $20. Do you know what just happened yesterday? McDonald's and Starbucks announced massive increases in the prices on the menus. And that's what's happening in California. My wife went to Walmart, which is still the cheapest place to go, went to Walmart for some stuff. We were having a party, came home with like 2 bags. There wasn't much in it. She's like, this was $200.
Oh, yeah.
So the pinch is real. The Central Valley has some of the poorest counties in California, and people here are struggling. I mean, it is almost impossible to live. I mean, you see what's going around the country. Most people can't even afford to purchase homes right now or afford their current home. And it's just amplified on a level in California because all this free stuff really isn't free. And that's what, people have to understand. Everything that sounds good when the government says we're going to give it to you, there's a cost attached to it, and you're paying for it on the back end. And there's no place like California to see the devastating effects of that.
Tucker says, Browns fan, I feel bad for you. Laugh out loud. North Minnesota, need to keep pointing out the rhinos that are not voting conservative values. F. Sass says, seems like a nice, decent fellow. I would vote for you if I could, sir. Well, I don't know. If you're a legal alien, you can still vote for him, so why can't you?
Well, it is California, so
yeah.
I mean, it's like a free-for-all. I mean, we got to get our election secured, but I mean, man, you should. That's another thing, that California's exporting. They started this in California, and you saw 2020 was California on a mass scale. That's what our elections are like here in California. And that's why the left was salivating when when they saw, hey, we can use COVID to take this nationwide, and you saw the results, chaos.
Oh, yeah. Razzle Dazzle is trying to drum up some business for you. He says, sports card collectibles, maybe David wants to buy my collection.
Well, that was my
Hey,
next.
I'm always willing to look.
Yeah, my next question for you is PSA or SGC. These guys won't understand that.
PSA.
Well, I would do PSA for modern cards. SGC, the only thing I would say to send there is for vintage stuff.
What is that, the
Grading for
Grading.
sports cards.
Yeah.
Great.
Now, does Beckett still exist?
Yes.
Does it? Okay.
Oh, yeah, they still exist.
No kidding. That was
I
like,
just like PSA better. I like the way the holders look, so I would say that.
Me too.
well, is Beckett a competitor? I am way out of this market, but I used to love picking up the
they
Beckett.
Are, yeah.
I used to love picking up the
Beckett
monthly
is great.
Beckett, and
Yeah.
finding out what my cards were worth.
Yep. They're the distant third for graders.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
My prized possession
Now
was
it's just eBay.
Exactly.
my prized possession was Nolan Ryan card back in the day on the Rangers, and it's like, I've liked the Rangers ever since then. I've been to the Rangers stadium too, so.
Oh, you're hurting me right now. I'm an Angels fan, and
Oh well, so you still like Nolan Ryan then, right?
I like Nolan Ryan.
Yeah.
Yeah. Didn't get to see him play much. I was really young when he was finishing up, but
Yeah.
I'm an Angel fan, and they stink. So
Yeah.
So I'm curious though, David, how is it going? Campaigning, we love getting into the weeds when it comes to campaigning.
Yeah.
Sounds like you ran in the past. How do you develop an infrastructure and get the money to beat a guy like this?
Well, listen, everybody wants to say, oh, you got no shot to beat Kevin. He's got $15 million. That's bull. We don't have to compete with Kevin dollar for dollar. Kevin is a known commodity. He's been there for 20 plus years. There's nothing he can promise to voters that he hasn't already failed to deliver on. The only thing we need to do is raise the money to make sure everybody knows there's a viable alternative on the ballot. And the outreach has been great. I've had local people are just so pumped up. The grassroots is so pumped up because Kevin's never really faced a challenge like this. And here's a secret about Kevin McCarthy. He is one of the most unliked people in the United States. You heard those Republicans saying you fired the most popular speaker of all time. Yeah, popular amongst the Republicans he helped get into office. The people that cast ballots despise Kevin. We have polled Kevin in his own district and in neighboring districts. His approval is like 20%. So nobody likes this guy. All we have to do is make sure people know my name's there and I'm ready to go. And we're working on that. And it's only been a few days, but the response has been great. The national media response has been great. This is our time. We beat Kevin McCarthy, and the Uniparty Washington's finally going to know we've had enough, and we're not going to sit back and let you guys destroy our country.
David Bratt, when he beat Eric Cantor, the former House Majority Leader, the total campaign by David Bratt did not even equal the amount that Eric Cantor spent in steak dinners.
Mm-hmm.
It was a fraction.
This is the third duck we got to get rid of because it started with Eric Cantor, then Paul Ryan, those three young guns on that book cover. Now it's time to send Kevin packing.
There you go. Yeah, we didn't unfortunately get rid of John Boehner back in the day, but and he actually had a vote. He got a vote for Speaker of the House in this recent.
Oh, I know. Yeah,
it's unbelievable.
Well, it's ridiculous.
David Gigilio, very nice to meet you. I won't mispronounce your name in the future. I completely forgot when I met you in the Zoom right before the show. That was the one thing I was supposed to do is find out how to pronounce his name because we didn't know, and I got it wrong.
I won't hold it against you. I'm going to hold the Rangers against you, but I'm not going to hold that against you.
Well, Well, I'll tell you what. Hold on. I'll just go to this segment first, okay? Before we even get into it, Dawson, pull up because I'm going to convince you right now, Mr. America First, why you like the Texas Rangers. Line 12. The Texas Rangers are the one non-woke MLB team. They're the only team that didn't embrace the Pride Night or Pride Month celebration. This is a article on AP. This is from I think 2022.
I know. I'll give them credit for that. I just
well, there you go. See, honestly,
I'll give them credit for that, but you know what? I'll say this: it's good that they won because now the Angels don't look as bad because we can say at least we got our butts kicked in the division by the reigning world champion. So it gives us a little bit of an excuse to say, hey, there's a reason we stink. It's not just because we're terrible at everything.
Well, and honestly, obviously you make a living off of sports, I guess, or maybe Pokemon is the 90% of your business. It doesn't matter. But the thing about me is I love baseball. I love the Twins. I grew up,
baseballs, yeah.
I mean, look, I'm a product of the 80s and the early 90s. I mean, the Twins, 87, 91. I mean, like, that is it. I remember watching the World Series when I was a youngster. But what they do now with this woke mind virus, I'm done. The Twins, if you're mad at the Angels, the Twins could not win a playoff game, 19 years or whatever? It's been a long streak. And all of a sudden, we did well. We got in the second round, and I didn't give a crap. Yep. I did not care about the Twins.
I'm glad you brought that up because, man, I love baseball. I played baseball through college, and I loved the Browns. And when all this woke stuff started to come into sports, I really was like, when I watch sports, I don't want to care about anything else. I just want to watch the game, watch the players. I don't want to hear anyone talking about politics. And this was the first year I started really watching baseball again. And it's unfortunate because the Angels collapsed, but because I've just been so turned off, and I haven't been able to get into the Browns like I used to. I mean, the Browns had some decent years. I just don't feel it anymore. It's just so unfortunate because people need escape from the daily grind, and a lot of people look to sports for that. And when sports gets too politically involved, it turns people off. It's just not the place for that. Let's just all have fun and watch the game and watch our favorite players. But yeah,
But see, I think this is planned, David, because it's like schools shouldn't be the place for this, but it is in schools, and your corporations shouldn't be. Target shouldn't be the place for it, but Target is the place for it. It's planned. It's this long march in the institutions, and sports is so huge in our life and our culture that they have to infiltrate sports where you can't watch a football game now without seeing the end zone that says end racism. Not that any of us are against ending racism. It's just so dumb.
It's been on there for 4 years. It's been
right.
on there for 4 years. You think it would be over, but it would have been ended.
They should have solved it by now, right? I'm sure so many people see all those racists out there watch the football game and go, oh, well, that's what takes to me.
The back of the Packers helmets all said choose love, and they did.
Yeah.
Was that a joke?
No.
Did you just try telling a joke?
Last year it says choose love.
Did it really say
yes.
that?
Wow.
Yes.
But it was referring to the quarterback.
No.
That's hilarious. How did I not know that? And they just ended up with love. That's great.
Yeah.
No, I didn't.
You made another. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I feel like I missed a big cultural event that ended up happening, and I was unaware of that.
Another good point.
Oh, you didn't know that they put they had the name. I mean, they had names of like.
No, I'm just saying that their quarterback's name is Love now, so it's just kind of funny how that all interplayed,
I got some love cards if you guys want to buy any. If you're a big fan, we can.
Yeah, my son would be interested. Yeah. What were you gonna say, David?
I did want to point that out because you made an excellent point there. I was
plenty of excellent points, but thank you. That's so nice of him to say that.
I was a high school history teacher. You'd be back when I was in Connecticut in the inner cities, and you would be dumbfounded by some of the things that happened and that I saw in the classroom. But you're exactly right. The left, they're smart at what they do. We don't give them enough credit because they realize that it's very difficult for the government to really kind of indoctrinate and brainwash people because you can take it to court and the courts are going to say that. But now they've taken over the boards of corporate America. They've infiltrated these sports leagues, and they're having these very influential things that hold a lot of power. They're using them to push their agenda, and they do it with the threat of, hey, if you don't do this, we're going to destroy your brand, we're going to destroy your sports league. So it's actually, this is planned. It's been going on for a while. It started in the schools, and now they're branching out into private entities. And that's why the Republican Party really has to take action. They're not taking the threat seriously. And that is a huge crisis in this country. And people like Kevin McCarthy just brush it off. They laugh about it. They don't think it's real. They don't think it's actually a problem.
Well, David, I agree with a lot of what you're saying. I like the fact that you're mounting this campaign. Mm-hmm. Tell people, where can they find out more about you?
Yes, check out my website. It's www.davidagigilio.com. Like I said, this is a tough battle. Times are tough. Anything you can give helps. $1, $5, $10, $20. Anything you can give helps us. Spread the word, spread the message. You can find me on Twitter, David Gigilio, Gigilioca, and let's keep fighting. So I appreciate you guys having me on, amplifying the message, and let's make America great again.
Yeah, well, let's stay in touch. I'm curious how this campaign goes. Awesome. Well, thanks, great. David. Great. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
I like that guy.
Yeah.
That was fun. And young too, and that's what I think about nowadays. Is like, well, we've talked about this a great extent on the show. The old people that are basically falling down in the case of Feinstein dying in office. To see someone, I don't know, I didn't ask the age. He's not a lady, but, you just generally don't ask people's age. But it seems like he's probably in his young 30s at best, right? Mm-hmm. Maybe even late 20s. It's like, that's good to see that, right? We need that kind of stuff.
There's got to be something wrong with him, though. He went to California.
Yeah.
And honestly, it's sad that we say that. A beautiful state, right?
That's
California's
a beautiful part of the country.
Beautiful part of the country. Humble people. It just...
I think it's interesting. We talk about how this has infiltrated sports, but he's 250 miles from Hollywood.
Right.
I mean, they've done the same thing, and corporate America is doing the same thing with ESG and all of that. It seems like there's quite an agenda.
There is definitely an agenda. We're going to get into that when I talk about Joe Rogan's show. Two big takeaways and some clips here, so just stick around for that segment. But I'm looking at Jesse. Jesse's like, when are we going to talk about Trump? I got to talk about Trump. Because Jesse was at the Supreme Court today, outside the Supreme Court, got heckled, got protesters. Some guy that called you a faggot, apparently, who's
I got called lots of things. Yeah,
that's what he said to you, right? That's what
it wasn't just me. Yeah, to the whole MAGA group. So all kinds of crazy stuff. And yeah, I mean, I don't have that video ready. I'll have to get it ready for the next time to show people, because this guy was nuts. He was threatening to dox people, and he was gay, but he was calling us faggots. It was an interesting thing. But yeah, no, I was outside of the Supreme Court building in front of the Judicial Center. We were holding up signs letting people know. I got interviewed by NPR News, had some people from Associated Press taking pictures. I'm sure the media was interested in what we were doing. And, we just felt the need to stand with President Trump in that moment. The fact that they were trying to remove him from the ballot shows that the Democrats are afraid that Trump is going to beat them. It's one of the biggest cases that has probably ever happened in Minnesota. They're trying to set new precedent. This is a case that has already been decided by the Senate because he was acquitted. And before the show, Brad had mentioned that, and who was overseeing the entire thing? The Supreme Court Justice. So, because of that, it's already been adjudicated. For it to go to the Minnesota Supreme Court is a mistake. This case should be completely withdrawn.
But is it going to be withdrawn? So to me, it's like, part of the things about Trump, is he going to get justice? First of all, how do you have a jury of your peers. A jury of your peers. How do you have a jury of your peers if you're Donald Trump? What are your peers? Right? What is that? I don't understand. He's a leading presidential contender, former president, so he's going to have a jury of his peers. Well, I'll tell you what, his peers are not in the Washington, D.C. area. Mm-hmm. They're certainly not in Manhattan. Like, what are his peers? The best case for Donald Trump in terms of a jury of his peers, to me, would be the Florida case, which is the classified documents case, okay? Mm-hmm. So you look at this stuff, and here you don't have a jury. What you have are Supreme Court justices weighing in and determining this case. Well, this is a left-wing court. I mean, that's not just me speculating. You literally have a Supreme Court justice in Minnesota, Paul Teason, who used to be the Democrat Speaker of the House, right? Mm-hmm. What happens in Minnesota, it is an elected office, but it's kind of not, because people retire before election time, so the governor then appoints. Now, we've had left-wing governors for, what has it been, 20 years or something like that? It's been a long time. 06, since 07, I guess, right? Mm-hmm. When did Dayton get it? Whatever. Dayton would have got it in 2012. It's been a long time. Three consecutive terms, and now we're on the fourth term.
2010.
Yeah, 2011 is when he was taking office. Yeah.
Right. Yep.
Okay, so still brain fart there, right? So that's how long we've had Democrat-appointed Supreme Court justices. And that's who's going to decide this case. Okay, then we go to the lawyers in the case. I'll pull up the Action for Liberty article. You guys can go to actionforliberty.com to read this article. We produced it yesterday. Jesse's been big on this case. So here are the people arguing the Trump case. First of all, you have this group called what is this group called? What is it? Hold on, let me pull up my article here. I should have this ready to go. The group bringing the case
free
to
speech
it
for
is
people,
called
isn't it?
free speech of people or free speech for people. Did I typo? Okay.
I think it's free speech for people.
Sorry, I had.
Isn't that
I put-
Joan Grow behind that?
Yeah.
There's a lot of
Right.
people behind it. A lot of rhinos behind it. By the way, the Colorado case, similar case, this has happened in many different states. Colorado case has got mostly Republicans behind it, right? This is, in my opinion, a Republican attack on Donald Trump because it makes a lot of sense here, right? We can't beat him in the primary, so let's take him off the primary ballot.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Ronald Fine is the lawyer representing the free speech for people. Today he had 35 minutes to argue his case to the liberal court and then also had a rebuttal period. Arguing for the campaign, for Donald Trump's campaign, was Nicholas Nelson of Cross Castle law firm. You actually reached out to him, Jesse, so...
No, not him. Someone else.
Oh,
But,
someone else from him? Okay.
Yeah, I don't want to get into that
You don't wanna
anyway.
get
But yeah, no, we had called out in the beginning. Very few people had even noticed Reed LeBeau. This corrupt, anti-liberty MNGOP attorney who was hired on. He's the kind of person that has been going after grassroots conservatives. In any case where it's the establishment versus grassroots, he is always going to side with the establishment. So I always thought this entire time, Reed LeBeau and these other MNGOP lawyers are going to be in this to try to sabotage and backstab Trump. And I was so happy because we had reported on the fact that Trump's lawyers were not attached to this case, that Trump didn't get his own legal representation. Luckily that was changed with, a few days later, Trump was able to, get it filed into the court briefing so that his own attorneys and representatives could be there. Because how is that possible that Trump doesn't get his own represented lawyers, and it's all up to the MNGOP when David Hand is the one, he's put out all these statements. So the leadership of the MNGOP hates Trump. David Hand was the one who said that this is no longer the party of Trump. David Hand was the one who was going after Trump, saying that he's not a Trump guy, how he was a Carly Fiorina guy, and that tells you everything you need to know about David Hand. If you're for Carly Fiorina, I don't think there's any comeback from that. You're a rhino forever.
So maybe we should spell this out here. The case is the free speech for people suing the Secretary of State of Minnesota, Steve Simon, a Democrat. Mm-hmm. That's how this goes down, right? They're suing the Secretary of State. When you say sue, it sounds like this is a term like they're adversarial to say. They're all one big hug, right? But that's the process. You got to sue the Secretary of State because Secretary of State administers the elections. Okay,
right. And as we were watching within this court case, the Secretary of State's lawyer, his whole point was, we want this to go speedy. We want a speedy trial because the Secretary of State's office is all about saying that we need to get the ballots printed. So the Secretary of State has had no issue with the case on merit. They don't really give a rip about whether or not Trump is going to be on or off the ballot. They just want to make the decision quickly. So the Secretary of State's office, obviously, who would they prefer? What would they prefer in this situation? Take Trump off the ballot. But he's supposed to be pretending like he's arguing alongside of Trump's lawyers and the MNGOP's lawyers. This whole thing is such a scam. And once the court, comes and deliberates and comes to a decision on this, if it doesn't go our way, we need to be ready to appeal, take to the federal Supreme Court.
Dawson, let's pull up the video of the Supreme Court hearing today. Let's go to 2721. Mark, that's where so as Jesse says, the Secretary of State, which is represented by Keith Ellison's office, Attorney General's office, the lawyer is Nathan Hartshorn. Now, Nathan Hartshorn, and we put this in an article, this is the guy who goes after us in court with the Weaponized Campaign Finance Board. We have two completely fictitious cases against us that the Weaponized Campaign Finance Board is now making us go to court. This is the guy that represents the CFB to come after the largest conservative grassroots group in Minnesota. This guy is no Trump fan. So basically, if you got 35 minutes for the anti-Trump side, and then the pro-Trump side gets 35 minutes, 20 goes to the Trump's attorney, 10 minutes goes to Nathan Hartshorn of the Attorney General's office, which is just might as well add that 10 minutes to the other side.
Yep.
And then Reed LeBeau, as you said, and we'll get into that. That 5 minutes might as well go to the other side too. I don't know if it's because he hates Trump or because he's just incompetent. We'll let you guys decide. But here's Nathan Hartshorn. Here's the case he's trying to make to the court.
And you have 10 minutes, Mr. Hartshorn.
Thank you very much, Your Honor. Good morning, Your Honors. My name is Nathan Hartshorn. I'm an assistant attorney general with the Minnesota Attorney General's office. I'm here representing Minnesota Secretary of State Steve Simon, who's the initial respondent in this matter. As your honors are aware, the Secretary's overriding concern in this matter is ensuring that Minnesota's election officials can administer the state's presidential nomination primary in March in the orderly fashion that Minnesotans expect. Minnesota's election system is the envy of the nation. That's in large part because our county and municipal election officials are the envy of the nation. The Secretary's central concern here is that all of these folks are given the time that they need to do their work preparing for the March election. So as we explained in our initial response, Minnesota's election officials need this petition to be determined no later than January 5th so that they can start the election machinery.
Okay,
running.
now let's go ahead and pause it there.
Your Honors
so
are
this is the pro-Trump side once again. 35 minutes given to the pro-Trump side. 10 minutes is taken up by the Secretary of State, which is, by the way, the plaintiff on the lawsuit, right?
Yep.
And their just argument is not like the merits of this case. Did Trump commit an insurrection and is not eligible to be president? It's the fact that we just need you guys to make a quick decision. We'd love for this quick decision, and I'm not saying this is the court, but we'd love for that decision to go in the matter of the. I'm sorry, the plaintiff. They're the defendant.
Yeah. And one thing I'll say about Steve Simon, he actually has been pretty publicly saying he won't take a stance on it, which I appreciate, because you look at the Colorado case, the Colorado Secretary of State, who's also a radical leftist Democrat, she's been out there basically making it 100% obvious where she stands on that case, which is not how a Secretary of State should be. The Secretary of State is just supposed to adjudicate our elections, do things fairly, basically be the rule follower, make sure that everything is done, without fraud. The Secretary of State shouldn't even be a real partisan type thing, but when we live in a time where elections are stolen and Democrats are trying to steal them, then we're going to have people like Steve Simon. But, he publicly he's been, pretty nonchalant about it. But privately, of course, we know where Steve Simon, where his priorities lie.
Marty, 1967 says, thanks, Jesse. Wish I could have been there. There you go.
Yeah, I kind of put it together last minute telling people about, hey, let's get out there and protest, let our voices be heard, because I figured, of course, the media is going to be there. And, the Minnesota Supreme Court actually gave me fake news. When I talked to them on the phone a little bit ago, they had told me it's going to be within the courtroom within the Capitol building. So I said, okay. I stood in front of the Capitol. I realized there's nothing going on in here. So then I head over across the street. I see that it's going on in the Judicial Center. So, typical leftists and government bureaucrats trying to dissuade Trump MAGA people, which I guess maybe they had no idea who I was, but, they definitely pointed me in the wrong direction, which, can't we expect our government to tell us the truth?
No.
We should be able to at least.
I know it's a rhetorical question. Yep. Okay, let's go to 5815 of this. This is Read the Ball. So now, once again, so just think about this. This is a small world here. You got Nathan Hartshorn, the Attorney General, he's Assistant Attorney General to Keith Ellison, radical leftist. Just hold off for a second there, Dawson. This is the guy that represents the Weaponized Campaign Finance Board against us in court. Now, why are we in front of the Campaign Finance Board? Because this D-bag, Reed LeBeau, decides I'm going to file this erroneous campaign finance complaint, board complaint against Action for Liberty, the grassroots conservative. Let's just call ourselves America First, because I agree with America First. That's what I am. I'm America First in many regards. And so these are the guys. So he's the reason that we are in that hot boat. His firm also on the second case that they've gone against us. So it's just like this great little illusion that Trump's got this group of people supporting him. It's not that case. There's 20 minutes of his own attorney that represents him. Everyone else that's supposedly on his side is basically haters. And this is who the Minnesota GOP hired to be their attorney. And it's just a money laundering scam. Like, I don't know if you saw this, Jesse. 9/17 last night, the Inman GOP has another email, another fundraising email.
I read it. Yeah, I mean, just another scam where they can try to fundraise money off this. It's so insulting for, someone like David Hand. Like I said, all you got to do, if you just Google David Hand Trump, you can find all these articles with him being nasty about Trump. That dude hates Trump. That dude doesn't want to make America great again. David Hand, for him to be putting out these emails, pretending like he's MAGA, wearing a MAGA mask, he can't be trusted. This isn't a big scam. It's a money laundering operation where he's trying to fundraise. It's, he's telling people he's going to be fighting for Trump. David Hand would prefer Trump not be on
I shouldn't
the
say
ballot.
money laundering because
I shouldn't have said that either, but, you know.
Quite frankly, what they're doing is they're telling people they're trying to raise money to fight this thing. What they're doing is they're just giving it to this left-wing Reed LeBeau, this guy that is a hater of grassroots conservatives, right? Let's just be honest. The guy's establishment. So if you donate because you love Trump to David Hand, probably no one really did, but they're donating because David Hand says, well, we got to defend Trump. They're just going to this awful lawyer. By the way, same law firm.
It doesn't help Trump.
Same law firm that mysteriously got $200,000 from the Minnesota Senate Victory Fund, the Republican senators, the day before the election. What the heck was that $200,000 for?
So let me tell people, if you want to help Trump, donate to Trump. Don't donate to the MNGOP because they're not going to lift a finger for him. They'll put on these charades. They'll go in the courtroom. They'll have Reed LeBeau say whatever he's going to say. It's all a scam. If you want to help Trump, give to Trump.
Napkinator says O'Keefe reported on WinRed recently. They're doing the same as ActBlue, making extra donors in the name of people. I didn't know O'Keefe did that, and actually we knew about the story. So I'm glad that's out there. I'm going to have to look that up, Napkinator. I was actually privy to that story. I knew they had the story, so obviously we didn't want to break anything. So now that that's out there, I'm going to look that up because that's the allegation that I had heard is that there's a money laundering scam. And I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say money laundering in the sense because, they're literally trying to
said too. We could retract our words. I mean, the MNGOP is going to use it against us regardless. I don't care.
Well, okay, bring that up.
I'll say shell game.
Shell game, there you go.
There we go.
But that's literally a money laundering scam where they have these people donating in the name of real people. That's actually what launched the O'Keefe
Yeah,
Media
O'Keefe,
Group.
he just went to some, what's the organization called again?
O'Keefe Media Group. That's his,
No, the Blue, Act Blue.
Act Blue, yeah.
He went to an Act Blue conference where he was calling all these people out. And, all these workers for Act Blue, they were standing outside the hotel. They were so nervous they wouldn't say a word. They were just, they couldn't believe that there was somebody actually calling them out on their scam. So it's nice to see.
Razzle Dazzle wants to get O'Keefe on the show. I was just in a room with O'Keefe 2 weeks ago. I didn't even think to ask him to come on the show, but yeah, possibly. We'll do it, maybe. All right, let's go to 5815. This is Reed LeBeau, this hater, arguing for the Republican Party.
Please the court. My name is Reed LeBeau, and I represent the Republican Party of Minnesota.
All right, stop right there. Now, he represents the Republican Party of Minnesota.
Yep.
This is the guy coming after Action for Liberty. There you go. This is the attorney that David Hand decided to hire so they could fundraise to pretend like they're helping out Trump. Okay, there we go. That's Reed LeBeau, guy that hates us, hates you. Go on.
Brief time, I would invite the court to ask me questions at any point. And waive the uninterrupted 3 minutes. This petition should be dismissed.
Can I just...
Okay, and then let's stop. We don't need to go much further than that because now he's going to get massacred. He just asked for them to basically interrupt him and to continue on. And so that's all they do. They just interrupt him. And he gets basically in these arguments with the Supreme Court justices that I don't think he quite frankly managed very well.
Yeah.
You can go watch this as NPR's coverage of it. But essentially, he's trying to make a distinction between the eligibility criteria in Article 2 of the Constitution, you got to be at least 35 years of age, a natural-born citizen, and what he calls the diseligibility or disability part, which is what is being argued in the 14th Amendment. I thought a very awful explanation. This is the best and the brightest that the GOP found to argue this case.
Yeah.
Utterly stupid.
No, I agree. I couldn't believe it as I was watching that. It shows that this guy's pathetic. He's not the guy. He was, stumbling over his words. If I was Trump, I would have said that I only want my own representation there. I'm not sure if there was a way that he could have removed the MNGOP lawyer from that case because these people are untrustworthy and he shouldn't have had any of his time going to someone like Reed LeBeau. But overall, all things said, I think the Trump's lawyer represented himself well, and I think that we'll see what the Minnesota Supreme Court ends up deciding here. I think they understand that if they were to do something crazy, it's not going to look good, and also it's going to be overturned. So most people usually don't want to make a ruling that's eventually going to be overturned. Usually judges are arrogant, and they want to be right, and they want their decisions to continue to stand. But these, a couple of these judges on there, they're radical leftists,
Yep.
like you said. So, but they're all operating based on political conveniency. So if they think they can get away with this, they 100% will.
I think they're gonna decide in favor of the petitioner here.
Well, in watching it too, though, even the one justice said, we expect this is probably going to end up at the Supreme Court.
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
Obviously, right? But
Yeah.
I think they will make this case, and I think Colorado. I mean, look, there is a real TDS out there, Trump derangement syndrome, and it permeates through the Rhino class, and it permeates through left. I'm no huge fan. You guys know my thoughts on Trump. I've never been a big fan of Donald Trump. I'm a big fan of his movement. I'm a big fan of his people. And quite frankly, that's why I push back on David. It's like it's not Trump that's leading this thing. It's the American people and that's why they like Trump, and that's why they vote for Trump, because Trump is hitting the core of what a lot of patriots across the country, and we call it the silent majority, think and feel. And that's what's so beautiful about it. And now they want to take away their choice. Trump's a very flawed individual. I'll probably vote for him here in 2024 because I'm sick and tired of this bullshit they're running against us. And quite frankly, I didn't think Trump did the greatest job really tackling the swamp that grew under his term, but they don't want him, and they're going to these extremes. It makes me think, man, what do I want to
What are they afraid of?
Revenge tour is going to be really good. That's my argument for Trump. The revenge tour might be worthwhile.
That's the thing. The Democrats are the ones who are guilty of everything that they accuse Trump of.
Yeah.
They're the ones who want to thwart democracy. They're the ones who want to take their political opponents off the ballot. They're the ones who want to send their political opponents to jail. They're the ones who want to, lock up anybody who, believes in making America great again. They're the ones who are the fascists. They're the ones who want to control our lives. So, Trump, of course Trump isn't perfect, but, when you look at it, when it's a fight between the deep state and the swamp versus Trump, it's so obvious that at least this guy wants to make our country great again. He might make some mistakes along the way. We're all human, but he's got the right intentions and right brain, right heart.
All right, so Napkin Nader puts $10 in on Rumble Rant saying mega. Thank you very much.
Appreciate
Napkin
that.
Nader. Yeah, well, yeah, of course you appreciate it.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Yeah,
was like
I'd
the
seen
call
something.
sign.
There was a comment up there I missed from Razzles Dazzles that said something about something on Tuesday. So if you could send that again in the chat there, I'd like to see it. Razzle Dazzle.
Okay, 50 some minutes. The guy that represented Trump did great, smart. Is that your? I didn't get to see much of his arguments. What was your recap on Trump's lawyer?
Yeah, no, I wasn't able to catch all of this as it was going on. Like I said, I was outside of the Judicial Center as this was going on. I was watching it on my phone, but we had a crazy liberal protester screaming in our face the entire time, so it was tough to focus on two things at once. The cops were entertained by the hell out of this guy too, so it was an interesting situation. But based on what I was seeing, I thought that the Trump lawyer was answering the questions well. I felt like he was prepared. He was basically arguing that. First of all, that the Minnesota Supreme Court doesn't have the authority to make a decision like this, and then also based on the merit that this is a case that needs to be dismissed. So he was taking it from both prongs, both that this is the incorrect format and procedure in court and jurisdiction, and then also just based on the merits that Trump did not cause an insurrection. It's so obvious that Trump told people to go there peacefully. It was the agent provocateurs like Ray Epps that were pushing people to go inside the Capitol, break windows, damage property. It wasn't Trump.
Yeah. Okay. By the way, if you like the show, make sure you hit the like button on Rumble or on YouTube or Facebook, whatever you watch, and tells the algorithm to show it to more people. And once again, if you want to interrupt us anytime like Napkinator did, just hit a Rumble rant and we'll make sure to read your comment live. By the way, I guess if you hit a certain amount of Rumble rants, we invite you on the show like Brad Ganser, because there's no other reason we bring him on this show other than
amateur hour.
It's complete amateur. Didn't you do like $100 Rumble rant recently or something like that, or 50?
Maybe, I don't know.
Something like that,
or $1.
There you know, and then you followed up with like $1. I remember that. God, you're such a dick sometimes. And I bring you on the show. I go right into it. I like the pain. I like the torture. Let's move on. This next story, we got to talk about this. Biden comes to Minnesota. You can go to actionforliberty.com, read the story. Biden goes and tours a farm in Northfield, Minnesota, because he's man of the people. By the way, shockingly, all the food prices are going up. Just a complete mystery. Do you like that picture? I like that, throwing that together there. Yeah, a little mystery. Biden doesn't know where he's even at. And, he comes there. Now, he's chosen Minnesota. No other reason, guys, other than Minnesota's leading on, climate, right? There's obviously a lot of folks that, go back to that. Scroll down real quick, Dawson. There's obviously a lot of people, it says by the Ag Secretary, A lot of folks in Minnesota that understand and appreciate climate-smart agriculture. That's what the tour is about, climate-smart agriculture. Has nothing to do with Dean Phillips, who's challenging him in the Democrat primary, also being from Minnesota. That is just completely just a strange circumstance that ended up being in the same week. I don't know. I wouldn't believe that was their hidden intent.
No, I think he was definitely trying to shore up some support here in Minnesota. And but, all the politicians have gotten behind him. Everyone from Ilhan Omar to, all of them. Jacob Fry, Tim Walz. You go down the list, almost every single one of them in Minnesota is behind him. So it's only Dean Phillips, and we'll see what Dean Phillips is really trying to pull off anyway, because Biden's not going to be on the ballot in New Hampshire, which is going to be really interesting to see how that all unfolds. But I think the DNC isn't even going to allow those delegates at the national convention, so it could just end up being a wash anyway. But yeah, I mean, Biden, he's definitely desperate to try to win Minnesota over. He understands that, especially there's a lot of MAGA energy in Minnesota. People forget how close it was in 2016. We almost beat Hillary Clinton in 2016 here in Minnesota for Trump. And I think that same energy can be prepared for 2024. The Democrats won't see it coming. They're too stupid. You can tell them right to their face that Donald Trump is going to be the nominee and Donald Trump is going to win Minnesota. They don't believe it. So you know what? Let's just show these dumb people exactly what we can do. Because whether they like it or not, we're going to make America great again. We're going to win Minnesota. We're going to have to fight because obviously the election fraud and everything is crazy. But Joe Biden is desperate. He's nervous, and nobody's going to vote for President Dementia.
All right, well, let's pull this article back up, actionforlibby.com. And what's interesting about this is we learned as Biden does a $50,000 plate fundraising event, or up to $50,000, and then a speech where you could at least donate $1,000 to get into the speech. We'll get into that in a second. We find out that Trump actually is out fundraising Biden. It's $581,000 basically to Trump's 2024 bid from Minnesotans, and Biden's only raised $388,000. So now that's probably gone up quite a bit from last night's event, but Trump is actually beating Biden in Minnesota in fundraising, and then when you add all Republican donors, it's even worse. You can go to the story on actionforliberty.com. We hyperlink the MinPost article that they actually ran the numbers. Fascinating story, but it's like $1.3 million total that went to Republican candidates, which is probably mostly Perry Johnson's campaign. So,
right.
You got a bunch of Williams, and Jesse's trying to get that $25 hat or whatever it was.
Yeah, exactly. Anything that you can get for $1 that's worth more than the value of it, always take the deal. Always take the deal.
Is it worth more than that? How's it worth more than that? Can you sell that hat?
Well, some of the things, like the gift card, he was doing a gas gift card where you get $20 worth of gas for $1. So obviously that's a great return on investment.
That is a great return on investment. Okay, so let's go to this story here. So he's at a fundraising event, is giving a speech. This is NBC News that wrote this story. This was reported many places, but Biden is got a heckler. The heckler is a rabbi. Now, I had seen the storyline. It's Biden calls for a pause in Israel-Hamas war to get, quote, the prisoners out. I don't know what the hell that means. Does he mean the hostages? Is that what he means by prisoners? So we need to pause just so they can get out?
What's the difference between a pause and a ceasefire?
Well, but does he mean like the prisoners, the Palestinians, the people in the Gaza, innocent people that are in prison there? Like, what does he mean by prisoners? I'm guessing at some point today they're going to be pressed on what he meant by the statement. And you're right. What does a pause mean? So that was what I was initially going to write about the story. And then I saw the video. This is just hilarious. The video of the heckler. Let's go ahead and unmute it and put it on full screen. This is the rabbi, apparently. Pause.
You can't make me do that.
Rabbi, this is just your left. This is today's world, right? You can't make this stuff up. Where the hell did that go? There we go. Rabbi, let me get the name correct. While I get the name correct, I'm sure I got to get the pronouns correct too, right? Which the correct pronouns are he. They prefer she. Where the hell's the name of this? Why did I lose it? Well, go ahead and play the video for us.
Mr. President, if you care about Jewish people as a rabbi, I need you to call for a ceasefire right now.
Okay, pause. So that's Jessica, Rabbi Jessica Rosenberg. Heckling. Pronouns definitely he, right? Although the voice is what threw me off, because definitely.
Well, did you hear in the video, like, that tranny scared people when they stood up, like, people, what the hell?
Well, do you think that's what it was? I don't
I
know.
think a
I
little
thought were there some bigots in that room? This is Joe Biden's people. Were they bigoted towards the trans rabbi?
I
or
don't
as
think
Tucker
it was,
says, that's not a rabbi.
I think it was accidental bigotry. I think that I think it was just their natural bigotry that they just unleashed because they were like, it was what am I trying to say? It was automatic. It was an automatic response.
Instinctual. It was instinctual.
That's what I'm thinking of. Yeah, it was an instinctual reaction because how somebody standing up looking like that. How do you not? What the hell? What is that?
Do you think that's what it was, or was it being interrupted? What do you think, Brad? Was it
I'm just baffled because the response too. It's like we live in an upside down world where now I thought the Democrats were the ones against war, and someone calls for war and they shout her down.
Yeah,
very good job. Very gender that. See, now Tucker's found.
I'm just going off the vote.
I think Tucker found Tucker found the loophole. That's not a rabbi. Women can't be rabbis, just like they can't be priests. But it's not a woman.
Yeah.
So he can be a woman, a rabbi. If it wants to be a woman, then it cannot be a rabbi. Even if it was a man, he would be a heretic.
Well, and you had talked about earlier the war within the Democratic Party, and this is part of it, where the peace-loving, the peaceniks are fighting with the warmongers.
Well, and that's a very excellent point. I'll credit you for a good point this week. You had one last week, Brad. So two? Did you really have two? I don't think so. Fake news, total fake news. Brad Ganser, fake news. So this is one of the things that were said during the McCarthy charade was that, it's always the Republicans that are infighting. I heard this thing. It's like, no, the Democrats are really on display with infighting. And by the way, complex issue. You have the two extremes. You literally have parts of the Democrat Party that's like pro-Hamas. You got to be a nutcase to be pro-Hamas, right? Like if you're an American, you're like, yeah, go Hamas. Like, how did you come to that conclusion?
Yeah.
But on the opposite side, it's like Israel can do no wrong. Let's write that blank check. Israel has a right to defend itself. Obviously, that's true. But that means they can bomb hospitals or whatever. That's a bad stance too.
Yeah.
And so it's like you got the two polar extremes. And the nice thing about our side, if I will, our side, I don't want to say just Republican side, the common sense side, the conservative side, the America First side, we have certainly the one extreme, the Nikki Haley's. Let's write that blank check. Israel's war is our war. Mm-hmm. You don't really have the pro-Hamas side on our side, that's for sure. I haven't seen it.
Yeah.
But you have a large area of people that are just common sense, like, hey, maybe America shouldn't engage in this war. Now, Brad, I don't know your stance on this situation. I'm putting you in the hot seat. Where am I getting things wrong? Where am I getting things wrong?
Well, I support Israel, and
what does that mean? You support Israel?
Well, I think we need to help protect and defend Israel.
We do. That's our burden.
Well, we anointed them as a state within hours of their announcement 60 years ago. They're the one democratic state in that area, and I think that it gets muddied. I think the worst part for Israel is this whole Ukraine conflict. It's kind of muddied it up. We're just spending endless amounts of money with Ukraine, and when one of our real partners needs it, it's like, whoa, we've already spent too much money. And I'm with you, though.
I think that actually exposes it more. It's just like, you'll do Ukraine, you're doing the same thing in Israel.
Our foreign policy has been so diluted for the last 60 years that's where we've gotten. I think when it comes to supporting and protecting and defending real democracies throughout the world, we need to do that.
But why is it our duty to defend democracies? I don't even understand what that is. And what does a democracy even mean?
There's a lot of the Western nations that sat aside and watched 6 million people get killed.
And I did hear one good argument here that was that Israel is our only reliable ally within the region, which, it is important to have, people on the ground, boots on the ground that, understand what's going on. It's good to have reliable information. I mean, not that I'm saying trust Israel's word on everything, but, and Netanyahu, there's just a leaked video that came out there where he's basically saying that he can kind of take advantage of the United States because 80% of the American people support him and support Israel. So we need to walk a fine line of being able to say that, yes, Israel has the right to defend themselves, but we're not going to allow our country to be taken advantage of in the process.
Yeah, so I want to know, like, Brad, because I think you do represent a viewpoint, and I'm feeling like we are pretty different on this issue, okay? But I can still love you, and I'll still hate you in the ways that I hate you because you are such an asshole sometimes.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, well, we got a love-hate relationship, don't we? But we can work together. We're guys, right? We're men, right? So I feel like you do represent a large part, and my parents no different, by the way. I've had some deep conversations with them on this issue, but I think it's absolutely asinine that we have a loyalty to Israel that and I'm going to ask you this question point blank, does that mean our blood and our treasure gets spilled over in their fight, in their war? Is that what it means? Do my sons potentially get drafted for this war for Israel?
No.
So what does it mean? So there's limits at least to what you mean.
Absolutely.
Because when you look at Nikki Haley, I think Nikki Haley's all on board. Like, send the troops over right now.
It's my turn, right? If we're not $33 trillion in debt, this conversation realistically is far different, right?
It's a little different, but I still would have my same viewpoint because that's how you end up $3 trillion in debt.
Fair point, too. I think that when there's real democracies out there, it's our responsibility, because of the recent history since World War II, that we need to do what we can. I certainly wouldn't send my children there, and I wouldn't want to send your children there, but there's a lot of things we can do to support a $50 billion trade partner in that area that is a Western democracy.
Yeah, I think humanitarian aid is definitely a legitimate response to this. I think the United States needs to be the leader on that, not just for Israel, but, all the civilians, but, especially to Israel as an ally. I think that we have an obligation to provide them with food, water, shelter, all kinds of things that can, provide them, just the basic humanitarian functions.
And the only reason this is happening now is because of the absolute weakness of Joe Biden.
Mm-hmm. I wouldn't say that's the only reason, but it's certainly a big player in it.
Because
this is something.
If the election went a different way in 2020, they would not be doing this.
Yeah, but that sometimes worries me. Then does it not happen because Trump would be intervening earlier? Because I don't think Trump is truly a non-interventionist. That's basically my stance when it comes to stuff. Is I'm a non-interventionist. I don't think
he's
America
been speaking pretty broadly on this stuff. He's trying to be as agreeable as possible with this stuff and just say that we need to obliterate Hamas. Trump is he's pulling a Trump right now.
Yeah, he's pulling a big Trump. I appreciate you saying that.
Well,
by the way,
we've
Jesse.
also had several presidents say they were going to move the embassy to Jerusalem, and he's the only one that did it.
Yeah, and that to me is okay. And he did strike a peace accord in the Middle East.
Yeah,
but to me, it's just like, so what does this mean that we support Israel? So can Israel do wrong?
It means I get to put a cool bumper sticker.
I know that's all it's supposed to be. Honest, that's what it's about.
Without thinking this through, there's a lot of things that we can do with sanctions and aid and weaponry and open up. We gave. How much did we leave behind in Afghanistan? But yet we're talking about this. Maybe we should have just scooped up what we left in Afghanistan and dropped it off on the way home.
And Mike Johnson, as the Speaker of the House, his proposition to use the IRS money to go to Israel, I'm not, it's a tough sell, but I mean, it's a way better use of the money than having the IRS go after taxpayers.
Our own citizens, right?
Yeah, so it's one of those things where I like the idea of what he's doing, but not exactly my cup of tea. But it's an interesting concept.
Complete fair point, though, that we don't have the excess resources. Any money that we send over there, we're taking from our children.
Yeah.
And that's a tough part to go through. And obviously, I'm never going to say, Jake, I don't want Joe Biden to send your kid or my kid over there to fight.
Yeah.
All right.
Never.
We got a Rumble rant, and this is a great one. Based Minnesota, which is properly the right name for this Rumble rant. Thank you, Jake, for the tough questioning. Christian Zionism is the most cucked movement of all time.
Wow.
William would appreciate that comment so much too.
Yeah.
But to give the devil his due, it's not to call Based Minnesota the devil, but I mean this is kind of in some regards the way a lot of people are looking at it right now. Is And I feel you keep using the term democracy, Brad, but is it really just the democratic component? Because technically, so is Palestine or Gaza, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, but
they're
also,
democratic
they've
too.
demonstrated that that's not a real democracy.
Yeah, and
Well,
they
hold
haven't
on.
had an
Israel, you could
election.
say, is demonstrating it's not a democracy.
Yeah, but
either,
Palestine
hasn't.
they haven't had an election since 2006, so it's been almost 20
they settled
years.
all business in 2006.
You could say-
apparently.
No, I know,
right?
but
Jeez.
Tough to
say-
call that a democracy either. Then
You could say America isn't a democracy.
And it's not a democracy; it's a republic. That's the other thing is we're not even
well,
a democracy.
it's a democratic republic.
By the
right?
way,
It's,
it was James Madison himself who called democracy a vile form of government for the very point in the Gaza. It's mob rule, and the mob is Hamas, and so certainly democracies don't tend to work in a large part of the Middle East because you literally have thugs going around with knives and guns and enforcing rules.
their
A
parties are
republic is by
gangs.
far the constitutional republic by far is the best form of government. It's not perfect, we know that, because you can argue in a court case that the Constitution says one thing and remove a president from the ballot, right? So it's not perfect, but it's a damn good system compared to a lot of the other things. And so I don't know. I never believed I signed up for this thing where we got to defend all democracies around the world. And I really worry about that stuff, that it's also this religious component. People want to make their religious war, Israel, and we are destroying America. I think we are destroyed as America. Well, I shouldn't say destroyed, because destroyed means we can't come back. I think we'll come back, and I think we'll come back a lot stronger. But we are definitely for some devastating times coming up.
yeah, we're on the downward right now.
Well,
And I think
and
it's planned.
there's
I'll
a
get
lot
to
of
that in a
folks that
second.
say this is, first Israel. I mean, they're coming after us. There's a war on Christianity, if you believe it or not. That's up to you. Christian
100%.
Zionism. That's a new one that's been tagged my way. That's
Well, you haven't heard that one yet?
Not on me.
Yeah. Well, no, I don't think he meant it towards you.
Oh,
but,
okay.
But
Yeah.
certainly, because that's one of my parents' stance is that there's this love for the Jewish people, but I'm not certain to believe. Once again, I'm an individualist, so I don't want to just categorize it, but just Jews in a whole, in some regard, don't really view your salvation, right, as a Christian.
Yes.
So it's not like we're all on board. It's a competing religion to some degree, and actually not that great of religion, because Judaism didn't spread like Christianity did. Now also Islam spread quite a bit, so
my
there's that
favorite-
argument.
I mean, my favorite Jew's Jesus. So
And they don't recognize Jesus as Messiah,
exactly.
right? But there's you know what I'm saying? It's like people feel because of the biblical stories, it's Israel's land. And so, therefore, I don't really know if it's just defending democracies.
Well,
it's
it's
defending
a greater battle. It's a battle against capitalism, Western culture, democracy, faith, and I'm surprised that people don't see it that way.
Well, I think a lot of people do, and I don't actually have a conclusion here, right? I'm like most people. I'm just going to admit it. I'm not going to be like some phony politician, pretend like I got all the answers. I can't stand that. I don't have all the answers. All I know is I look at my children and the future they live in, both if they were to be drafted, but not just that. Let's say they want to grow a business, grow a family, and they won't be able to do it because the financial constraint that will be on them for whatever World War III, whatever nonsense we're getting into. And that's what's got me so concerned, is it's just like we're supposed to just believe that this is our war. Benjamin Netanyahu says this is America's war too. He doesn't say it. He says in English, he says to the rest of the world, the English-speaking rest of the world, we know who that is, wink, wink. I mean, also Great Britain. But it's like, this is your war too. Bullshit, it's our war. Bullshit. Now, I agree. Good strategic partnership with Israel.
And I
no
agree
doubt
with
about
you.
it.
I don't think it's our war. But
Well,
I
you
think,
make it sound like that, Brad, and I feel like that's where
Well,
a lot of
I'm
people
not-
go.
well,
Nikki
then
Haley
I-
wants to write the blank check to Israel. It's like, whoa.
That's a straw man argument.
I imagine, like, the guy back in the dark room, that I think there's ways to support them without writing a blank check.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of things that we can do. And
so what are the goals
my
you
concern
think?
is we're getting dragged in it when missiles are getting lobbed at bases in the region too. And I have the same fears as everybody else. I don't want, look who's running the ship, and we're in a very tenuous time because it seems as if there are forces out there that are really trying to drag us in.
Okay, so let's and we agree a lot. I'm having some fun with you, Brad, because we go back. So let's get to this last topic, or one of the last topics I want to talk about, and this is really good. So Joe Rogan has Elon Musk on his show on Halloween. Either I'm out of the loop, or a lot of us just, or I just don't find or Joe Rogan really is quiet about some of his guests. I had no idea, and I find out on Halloween, my favorite holiday, if you guys didn't know, that he's got Elon Musk. That's a pretty big guest. Now, I'm just going to put it this way. If you haven't seen the show, the first hour is okay. It wasn't a great podcast. He makes the cardinal sin, Dawson, you'll appreciate it. He makes the cardinal sin of entertainment. They literally eat on air. And so they've had a couple drinks, a couple cocktails. That's fine. He's done a lot of podcasting, does a good podcast with it, especially Alex Jones, drunk Alex Jones. But then they order a pizza, anchovies and pineapple of all things. They order pizza, gets delivered to the studio. They're yawning at the end of this episode. The episode did not go, because you're talking about Elon Musk. There's so much to talk about Elon Musk. I want to go 2 hours just on Twitter alone, or X, or whatever the hell you want to call it. Didn't cover the stuff that I wanted to, but there was a very interesting part of the Elon Musk episode that I want you guys to listen to, because I think Joe Rogan, and the reason I'm bringing this up, obviously you got the world's wealthiest man, Elon Musk, sitting down with the world's biggest interview, the biggest media personality, Joe Rogan, has the largest media audience. Sure, he's a comedian and cage fight commentator, but he's got the largest audience, and he's very influential in my demographic, men, 30 to 49, whatever that demo is. Our demographic, Brad, or you're a little over 50 at this point, but you're close to it. You're hanging on. We're the same demo. He's very influential, and to me, America's future relies on good, strong men leading this, patriotic vision, fighting against the radical left. So this is the kind of people influencing them. Listen to this segment here.
One often hears of the sort of George Soros boogeyman, but I mean, Soros actually, he is, I believe, the top contributor to the Democratic Party. The second one was Sam Bankman-Fried.
Yeah.
So, and Soros, I don't know. I mean, he had a very difficult upbringing, and in my opinion, he fundamentally hates humanity. That's my opinion.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, well, he's doing things that erode the fabric of civilization. Getting DAs elected who refuse to prosecute crime. That's part of the problem in San Francisco and LA and much other cities. So why would you do that?
Was it humanity, or is it just the United States as a whole?
I mean, he's pushing things in other countries too, not
doing
just
the
here.
same thing?
Yeah.
Okay, so now it's a Halloween episode, so they're in costume. Joe Rogan, really funny costume, by the way, if you don't know that whole thing. So, we, all of us, you guys at home, I know you've talked about this before, George Soros running the show. It's called by the media, it's called by leftists, this fringe conspiracy theory. And here you got Elon Musk, the guy running Twitter, the wealthiest man on the planet, basically saying the same thing, which is true. George Soros, I mean, you can look this up. It's just public information. George Soros and his fund, because he basically put most of his wealth into this fund. Why can't the fund is slipping
Well,
my mind.
he was a Nazi. That's what's so crazy. A Nazi is the #1 funder of the Democratic Party.
I thought he was escaped from Nazi Germany. Was he?
No, he rounded up the Jews with them.
Did I forget his history? Are you sure about that?
Yeah, 100%. He's a Jew himself, but
correct, he is a Jew.
What's the guy's name?
George Soros.
Got
it. Isn't that hilarious? Mr. Deep State's like, wait, what's his name? I don't know, Leader Soros. George Soros. I'm looking up on Wikipedia because that's it. Born in Budapest to a non-observant Jewish family, Soros survived the Nazi occupation of Hungary.
The comments is backing me up here. Tucker and Based are saying I'm right.
Yeah, well, that's why I'm not totally throwing it out because, and by the way, I'm just quickly referencing Wikipedia. It's not like we're going to get to the bottom of this. Soros was 13 years old in March 1944 when Nazi Germany occupied Hungary. The Nazis barred Jewish children from attending school, and Soros and the other school children were made to report to the Judenrat, Jewish Council, which had been established during the occupation. Soros later described the time to writer Mike Lewis. The Jewish Council asked the little kids to hand out the deportation notices. I was told to go to the Jewish Council, and there I was given these small slips of paper. I took this piece of paper to my okay, blah, 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 blah. Soros did not return that job. His family... I'm not sure.
Yeah,
I think you are right to this.
George Soros described it as happy making. George Soros said that he helped his uncle round up the Jews. He said that it was fun for him. He said that as a kid, it gave him purpose and all kinds of things. So people can find all those quotes out for themselves because that's the guy who's funding the Democratic Party. That's the guy who's funding the destruction of our country.
numerous far-right theorists have promoted false claims that characterize Soros as a dangerous puppet master behind alleged global plots.
Are you reading
criticism
CNN
of
there?
Soros. This is,
What are you reading?
this is the same Wikipedia article Jake was just reading.
yeah.
Well, that's the problem.
Wikipedia is a
okay.
little bit biased.
Right.
All right.
It works until it's saying what you don't agree with, right?
Okay, so
Well, how about you provide something that actually says something like that instead of just
I thought that
quote,
Wikipedia
because
was fine because anybody could edit it. But now that it's saying something you don't agree with, it's wrong?
Hold on. Go ahead.
Well, hold on. Look, here's what we're gonna do, because I think we owe it to our audience. This is called The Truth Hurts. So I know. Some point, the truth is gonna hurt. Either it's gonna hurt to Dawson, myself, or it's gonna hurt to Jesse. Okay, doesn't matter. Let's get to the bottom of it. We're not gonna live fact check this because, quite frankly, that kind of claim is not gonna just be easy to find. But the
trust
reason
me, Dawson, I don't think that you have anything in common with George Soros. I would certainly hope not, and I don't think that you would ever want to defend him if you knew what he was really about.
Yes. Well, let's
I
get
don't
back
like
to
him
it
anyways,
because
but I don't tend to call Jews Nazis just and let that.
Okay, well, you
go
can
by.
do the
there's
research
no
for
doubt-
yourself then.
Well, listen, even the slave trade, it's like there are Africans that rounded up the slaves, right? So it's not unheard of to hear people who are basically the victim ethnicity helping out the perpetrators, right?
Mm-hmm.
The Russians.
There was a lot of that during the war.
Correct. Russians selling out their even family members and putting them in the gulag. So that's not out of this ordinary. I just like to have things correct, and I just can't remember if that is a conspiracy or not. So we'll look into that. Open Society Foundation.
Well, he's admitted it. George Soros is
I
in
know, that's what
interviews
I'm
admitting
thinking.
it. There's no conspiracy.
I feel like I remember a video watching Soros admit it. I should know this by heart, right? I don't spend my waking day thinking about George Soros because I already know this guy's up to no good. He donates $32 billion to Open Society Foundation. He made his wealth. I mean, he shorted the British pound.
And the reality is the facts are the facts. He has funded all of these various sub-organizations to put DAs in and
right,
strange voter processes throughout the country.
Yeah, so regardless of
if he was playing red light, green light as a kid with rounding people up, that's irrelevant.
Well, I wouldn't say it's irrelevant. That is a very interesting
but
mark
it is
on his
separate,
history.
Right?
Yeah,
it's a separate thing.
But it is a separate thing because we shouldn't get bogged down in that. The real point is this guy is a puppet master spending. I mean, he literally gifted $32 billion of wealth to the society he started, which is now being run by his son. We've talked about that on this show. Mm-hmm. And here you got the world's wealthiest man, Elon Musk, calling it out on the largest platform. I don't know how the numbers will be on this podcast. And quite frankly, I didn't even think that, and I love Joe Rogan's podcast, by the way. I'm a huge fan. So just fair criticism, not the best podcast. You probably shouldn't order an anchovy and pineapple pizza after drinking whiskey. You're going to get sloppy and you're going to get lazy. Literally in the last 10 minutes, Elon Musk yawns and looks at his phone. I'm like, oh my God. Yeah, of course. I would do that. Yeah. That's why we don't eat on air, right? Though Tushy does have wings. It's in his rider, apparently. But I thought that was interesting. On Joe's podcast, they bring up this thing because Soros is literally behind a concerted effort to ruin America, right? This isn't a fringe conspiracy theorist. You can look at the books. George Soros and his web of organizations literally funds these DAs, and this was in the context of how San Francisco is a shithole. That's essentially what he's talking about, is San Francisco is unrecognizable. And this is George Soros funding this stuff. This is not like this has just happened out of happenstance. This is like literally a concerted effort. Fast forward to the next day. He has Tim Kennedy on. Tim Kennedy, former UFC middleweight, top 5 contender, Mr. America, soldier, special forces, Green Beret.
Badass dude.
Badass dude. I like Tim Kennedy. I don't agree with a lot of Tim Kennedy's stance on international stuff. I agree with a lot of Tim Kennedy. Just there's some things I think maybe nuances I disagree with him on. Regardless of that, this is a fascinating conclusion that he makes when Kennedy is talking about this humanitarian crisis on the border. Basically, these coyotes smuggling children across rivers, and at the last minute, they're dunking these babies that are riding on shoulders into the Rio Grande so that all the resources go to that, and they can get their fentanyl across the border. Listen to this, and listen to this conclusion Joe Rogan starts drawing from it.
That's hard for people that are trying to do good. How do you choose which problem to attack? We had a service member that dived into the water to try to save a baby, and he drowned. Took us a week to find his body. A Texas National Guardsman dove in there to try to find a baby that had got pushed off. And he drowned trying to save her.
Is it a matter of resources? Is there not enough resources being put into... Well, obviously, this whole thing reeks of... It's so terrible to say, but it seems like this is a concentrated effort and not just from the cartel. It seems like this is something that's being allowed to happen.
Okay, so it's really fun to watch Joe Rogan have that aha moment. And this is the beauty of the Joe Rogan podcast, the Joe Rogan experience, is he's navigating these conversations with people. And I think he's developing this worldview from having these interesting people on the show, which is, by the way, it's not lost to me that the left doesn't want to have conversations, right? Mm-hmm. The left wants to silence the other side. So meanwhile, when you actually allow people to come and show left and the right, if you follow Joe Rogan, I mean, Bernie Sanders has been on this podcast, you end up allowing yourself to think and draw some of these conclusions. And I think he's seeing something that a lot of us are waking up to, that there is a concerted effort to basically kill America. Mm-hmm. I mean, how else do you explain the damn border crisis? Like, how is this a Republican versus Democrat issue? You can't just allow fentanyl to come across the border and murder people. Mm-hmm. I mean, how many thousands of people dying a day from fentanyl? And we're allowing this to happen because we can't come to a conclusion on the damn border? Mm-hmm. Like, what? And so, yes, maybe it's, going to be labeled by the media as a conspiracy. That's the whole damn point of the show. I was just explaining to a older fellow. He called himself old, okay? He's technologically illiterate, but he's complaining about, all I got is Fox News. I go, well, you got to get online and check out the new media, like our awesome show, and thank you guys for watching. Mm-hmm. There's lots of great shows out there. We're just one of many, okay? So that's where you're going to get the real truth, right? The corporate media is going to give you one narrative. And Fox News is included in that, right? We're going to get down to the bottom of this stuff. Napkinator says, getting ready to pull the plug on America. Oh, I'm sorry, Base Minnesota said that. Many DAs, AJs, and judges are in his pocket. Heard he's closing offices throughout the United States. Hate Minnesota. So where is the MNGOP with their Constitution certification? Was it actually submitted fraudulently? I'm sorry, that's off topic here. I don't know why I'm going to the section here. Tucker says Soros did an interview where he said he looked fondly on his youth. There's a video of it. We'll look into that for the next show.
Dare.
What's that?
Said, how dare someone look fondly on their youth? That's ridiculous.
I think I remember seeing this video, Dawson, in all fairness. I know you can't go against your leader, Soros, you deep stater.
I don't even know who the guy is.
Yeah, I know. If you didn't, if you'd seen the video, then you wouldn't be defending it.
I guarantee I would be saying it. This Jew is not necessarily a Nazi.
Well, who cares? Who cares if is he? When you say Jew, ethnically Jew, is he really like a practicing Jew?
His family wasn't, and so probably neither was he.
By the way, do you still not have your camera on?
No.
Oh.
I didn't. Have
I'm Catholic with a little Jewish, so.
Oh, there you go.
What happens to me then?
Yeah. I don't know. Going to hell for sure. There, Brad.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. So where was I? I find this fascinating. Rogan's starting to wake up to this thing, and that's what I think really has happened in America. I'm going to have a guest on here pretty soon who's going to kind of spell out something, lots of research into the subject and how there's a master plan. Now, I don't think the master plan goes the way they want it, but there's a reason a lot of America is becoming woke. There's a reason we have these ridiculous policies, whether it's not securing our damn border when fentanyl's killing so many people, or funding Ukraine, this money laundering scam, right? Or weaponizing our government. There is literally concerted effort to ruin America. Now, why is that a conspiracy? Well, it is actually a conspiracy because people are conspiring to do it. But the people want to act like it's just a theory. No, it's literally happening. And there are people out there, globalists, Marxists, China, whatever you want to call these entities, and they're probably separate entities, but people that want to destroy America, of course they do. They don't want America to exist. They don't want a superpower that is a bastion of freedom because globalists want total control over the population, and America is the last bastion of freedom. Mm-hmm. And it really is so bad at this point where we can't even rely on damn Canada because Canada, and I think they were talking about that on that show, how Canada is basically a communist country. It's absolutely ridiculous what's happened to Canada, and Mexico is just plagued with violence. America is really the last bastion of hope in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And there are people with a concerted effort to destroy it. Marty says, yes, what Hate Minnesota said. Razzle Dazzle, thanks, Jake. You hunting this weekend? If so, good luck. Does that mean I got to get off topic here? Does that mean I got to get? I guess if he's asking if I'm hunting this weekend, of course. Is the Pope Catholic? Are all Jewish rabbis transies? No, I'm just kidding.
Transies?
It was pretty funny to see that video, though. I got to admit, I was like, wait. Slow the record. Base Minnesota, Jake, when did you want me to come on your show to explain? I've got your number still. Wouldn't that be fun? Let's get Base Minnesota on the show. That'd be great.
Mm-hmm. Yep. No, and that's the thing. It's an anarcho-fascism that these globalists are trying to push. I think that's the new ideology, anarcho-fascism. They want to destroy it and then rule over the rubble. That's my perspective, at least.
Yeah. All right, Brad, we're gonna close it down there. I think I had one other topic. It was Oregon. You guys can look this up. Oregon reduces standards for graduation. By the way, if you fail on the kids in the school system, just change if they can read and do math for graduation standards. That's how they're solving that problem, right?
Yeah.
That won't hurt us down the road. Oh my God. Oh, it's a concerted effort to ruin America, and they certainly did this in the education system. It's pretty damn obvious. Your kids go to Catholic school, right?
Yes.
Yeah, they get a better education. Unbelievable. All right, next Tuesday, we'll be back here, and yes, I will be hunting. Good luck to all the hunters out there. Brad, you're going to be hunting, aren't you?
Maybe.
Allegedly?
Maybe.
Oh, interesting. Must be a story behind that. Well, I will be chasing the elusive whitetail buck in way northern Minnesota. Not a good deer hunting area, but a fun area to hang out. That's
no,
what
I
it
got to
is
spend
me.
a little time at home since I went fishing.
Oh, I assume the whole family went down with you. Ew, yeah. Yeah, sorry to bring that up on air. But I'm not really sorry.
No, it's okay.
All right, we appreciate you guys tuning in. Thanks for the Rumble Rants. Thanks for liking this episode. Also, go to actionforliberty.com. Go get your Christmas tickets event. You'll be there, Brad, won't you?
Yes.
You're always at the Christmas event.
Yep.
But why don't you buy a table? You should buy a table and invite your family and friends. Actually, that's, you know what? You don't usually bring anyone but other than your spouse. You kind of want a kid-free night, so never mind. I want you to continue having the fun you always have at our Christmas event.
It's a blast.
I
never win, though.
Yeah, but I want to see you go big on the auction.
Well, we'll see. There's some challengers in that auction.
Some good ones, yeah?
Yes.
All right, good. All right, very, very good. I can't talk anymore. See, that's what happens. Hour and a half in the program, my brain just shuts down. Thank you very much for tuning into this episode. We'll be back on Tuesday. Take care.